I'm Gina Salā, and I love how our voices are this medium that are the bridge between the form and the formlessness. I love to share that with people, these pathways to lead us into remembrance of who we are. When we're just in the direct experience of the voice, and when it allows the mind to get really steady, because the breath has gotten steady, because the vrittis, chitta vritti nirodhaha, like the Yoga Sutras say, get really steady. It's almost like when you notice something you never noticed before, and all of a sudden we're like, wow, this is so beautiful. The beautiful thing about our voices is we feel them palpably in our bodies. You can, put your hand on your chest and go, ah. You could do that and physically feel the bones vibrate. You could put your hand on your head and say, and give your brain a little massage. From the age of 2, I lived in a Hindu ashram, chanting every night, chanting mantra and raga, and images of the divine everywhere, which really set me on a trajectory. And at the same time, I went to Catholic church with my mom and Protestant church with my grandma, whose love of Jesus inspired me, and I also love Jesus so much. I've lived in a Buddhist monastery, a Tibetan Buddhist monastery, Kopangompa, and really benefited from those practices. So I have this kind of a universal view, but I guess I would say that sound and our sacred voices are the thread, like the thread that the beads of the mala are strung on. Om Ganganapataye Namaha. Om Ganganapataye Namaha. Om Ganganapataye Namaha. Sometimes we think, oh, these practices are for holy people. Or, oh, you lived in this environment, then everything was just fluffy and roses and you sat on a lotus all the time. In my family, there was pretty profound addictions in drugs and alcohol. There was a lot of violence. There was mental illness. And as a child, I didn't know how to navigate that. But what I knew is that singing helped me feel good. And that singing would open my heart, and if I sang to God, I would feel the loving protection and the connection with the divine. Somehow when I was 15, I got sent by my little rural city. I got plucked out and picked to represent my city in Japan. And by some grace, there I started meditating again, because the father of the house that I was living in meditated every day. When I graduated from college, I remembered my time in Japan, went back there and worked for a few years in some kind of fancy jobs and felt like, wow, I have some fancy money coming in. But I was working so hard, and so many of us can relate to this, that I lost track of my heart. And I had some experiences too. And I lost track of, for the first time in my life, of God. It makes me want to cry to think of it now. For the first time in my life, I could not feel God when I prayed. I couldn't feel even if it was real. I could feel nothing, and it scared me. And as a result, I went seeking. I went to Bangkok. I sang in a bar there a little bit. I helped them sing their Rolling Stones covers because I knew all the Stones songs. And then I got a black market ticket to the Himalayas. And when my feet touched the ground, it was the kind of airplane that you step out of, I fell to my knees and cried, because all of a sudden, all those feelings that had been like held in escrow came rushing in. And I felt God, and I felt the divine, and I felt this beautiful planet that holds us. And I was like, I'm home, I'm home. I got back to the United States, I started singing, in these different groups. I was in a group with a Navajo man, and I was in other groups that sang Greek and Turkish music and Bulgarian, and I would sing in French. And I was really loving to travel the world and share these different cultures. And it's sort of like having a passport to different cultures when you run it through the body in the form of song. But I remember one day thinking, gosh, I wish I could go deep. I was remembering Nada Brahmananda and the deep mantra practices. I had studied voice also in India when I was there prior, and raga, these forms of singing that color the mind. But I didn't really know how, or maybe I was too shy. But when 9/11 happened, 9/11 when the towers were exploded, I remember my friend from LA called me because he figured I might not hear about it because I didn't have a TV. And I had been teaching voice in the oldest church in King County, and I had keys to that church. So I put the word out to a few people, let's go chant for peace. The church was literally completely packed. It was the Interfaith Community Church. So that powerful night of 9/11 is when I really committed to chanting more, not as entertainment or as a career, but to just share these vibrations of peace. I was leading and teaching voice classes, just regular voice classes weekly. And some people asked me, because I would sometimes share about Eastern techniques for opening the voice and singing, and also Western. And some people said, hey, will you take us to India? So I started leading these tours in India, and I still do, called River of Sound. I also, lead chanting Kirtan evenings. So Kirtan is more of that call and response, simple chanting, devotional. I lead classes in mantra and work with people individually, because also every one of us has things in life that are difficult or looping patterns. And there are these wonderful tools when you have the right tool in sound, because everything's vibration. A thought is a vibration. Emotion is vibration. The right tool at the right time in the right way can have a profound effect. So there's a healing in the sense of bringing wholeness and integration that I really love. And it's wholeness in the sense that all of us is welcome. It's like when the baby is learning to walk and they stumble again and they keep falling down, we don't say, you're not a walker, are you? No. We do what love does. Capital L love is what I call it. Try again. Try again. And if we can practice that with ourselves, how? By stopping the looping thought of whatever the drama story is. Sometimes it means singing right in those notes that are what you're feeling without the story. Ah. Or sometimes it's like, you want to just be like, I want to escape, Some traditions are like, one day there'll be heaven and that'll be great. Soon I will be done with the troubles of this world. That's so understandable, right? Who hasn't felt that? Get me out of this mess. And maybe there's a grace in that too, because we surrender. Help, I need somebody, But my path is really that all of those characters that would say help, that would say fisticuffs, that would be all of that they get welcomed into this banquet. This is a delicious path that feels good in the body, that connects our hearts when we chant together. And this is another path of feeling our connection, of opening our hearts to one another and bringing love to all the parts in us that maybe never felt worthy of it, or that didn't know that they could soften. Maybe we're stuck in one we all get stuck in certain personas. But just like my voice was a passport that would let me move to Turkey or Greece or Bulgaria or Ethiopia, our voices also let us move beyond our small identity to where capital L love can bring love and touch all those parts, all those parts, all those parts, because that's what love does. You are so deeply loved. You are so deep. You never were and never will be. You are so deeply loved. You are so loved. In this ashram as a child, we had this prayer to the Divine Mother that I've kept through my whole life. I actually say it every morning, generally in the shower. And I decided to put it to music decades ago. And it basically says, "Oh, Divine Mother, may all my speech and idle talking be mantra," sacred words, words of power. "All actions of my hands be mudra," sacred gestures, gestures of worship. "All eating and drinking be as offering of oblations unto thee. All lying down as prostrations unto thee. All walking and moving about as circumambulating thee. All pleasures be as dedicating my entire self unto thee. May everything I do," and I add, "and everything I am be taken as thy worship and love, Ma." In those words I have been reading since preschool, that we don't necessarily have to be in a temple or in a certain place, that everything we do can be worship. So I sort of have a habit, when I hear a siren, I think of it as a chance to offer a blessing, Om Namah Shivaya, for peace. And remembering to not be identified just with the form in case someone's leaving. Or turning on the light, Gayatri, inviting the light. We can remember in this lifetime and directly experience who we are. Not just the little superficial, but the vast union. And of course we will forget and remember and forget and remember until the remembrance is more than the forgetfulness. You don't have to wear white or look a certain way or be from a certain culture to sort of experience the benefit of practices and mantra or divine names or raga, which is this Indian classical way of singing, and Drupad, my particular, the oldest form of raga singing that I love. But what's important to me is to get the purest form of what we practice. So I've gone back for decades with my Gurujis, and I check again and again with I've been so lucky. I've had these incredible Gurujis. It's like asking a PhD beyond astrophysicist to teach, 6th grade science is how I feel. And yet they're so loving and patient. To me, the mantras are the goddess. Everything is the divine, but there are certain places where it's really easy to see. Maybe in a sunset. For me, you can palpably feel the potency and the powerfulness of the vibrations that I've been taught. And there's a little built-in system. If you don't pronounce them well, if you didn't learn them carefully, they're not as strong, but then that's okay. You chant with love and you're doing your best. But for me, because I see what they can be and what they are, it's really important to respect where they come from, Bharat, which is the name for India, the lineages, my Gurujis who've transmitted them to me, and to transmit them in the purest way, meaning with attention to the tongue. Is it palatal? Is it dental? Is your tongue curling up underneath your third eye and bringing the sound to condense so that it can be potent? There are so many fine details that give us a really powerful experience. Many of us know the word Shanti, and that means peace in Sanskrit. The thing is, in Roman letters, there are only 26 letters, right? The A, B, C, D. In Sanskrit, there's 52 or 56, depending on if you include some of the tantric, more subtle sounds. So Shanti, the T, we say in English a lot of the time, or in Western languages, Shanti, T. But that sounds like a cerebral T, da, da, da. There's 4 kind of T sounds. There's ta, ta, da, and ta. So that's 4 different sounds. Ta is dental at the teeth. Ta has a bit of an H. Ta, your tongue is back in the dome of your mouth, and ta has the H sound. So which of these T's is it? If we only write a T, what do we know? It's the dental. It's like if you put your tongue right where your top of your inner teeth, upper teeth meet the inner skin. Shanti, Shanti. It's like there's this kiss, and the sound is still radiating forwards. Our T, that sends the sound still into the bones a little more. Shanti. Whether or not you hear it, when you sing and say things with precise pronunciation, you get a completely different feel in the body and how it moves in the energy systems. Most of what we are is empty space. The physicists know. It's energy moving with very little solid. And then if you get to what are the solid atoms, even that is mostly empty space. It's mostly energy. And the ancient sound yogis understood this. And these refined sounds can have an effect of balancing and offering transformation that's integrated in the physical, energetic, and the different realms of our existence. So that's one reason why I love the precise refinement. And when I share it, people get into it because it's not concept. It's like, can you feel that? And we're like, yes. I think it's amazing that Kirtan and chanting has taken off like it has. It's actually pretty cool. And there's like country and music and rock, and I think it's great. You know, why not get people chanting more the names of God? And if it feels good and it opens our hearts, very good, yay. If you ask what is my favorite chant, it depends on the mood, right? Am I feeling in a Krishna bhav? Hey Bhagavan Krishna, Hey Madhava Krishna. Am I wanting to move beyond and feel sort of like perfection? Om Purnamada Purnamidam. I love the Ma chants. Sarva Mangala Mangalye Shive Sarvartha Sadhike. I love this because it's recognizing that all the auspiciousness comes from the auspiciousness of auspiciousness. Sharanye Triambake Gauri Narayani Namostute Narayani Namostute, the goddess, Durga of all auspicious. When I recognize that there is this benevolent divine, I become more receptive to it and more generous. Who's giving? Narayani Namostute. But I would have to say, if I could only chant one mantra for the rest of my life, it would be Gayatri. Gayatri mantra. Gayatri is the meter of 24 syllables. It's the mantra of enlightenment. It's the mantra. It's really beyond religion again. I love religions as boats to get us to another side of awareness. But this is a mantra of pure illumination, of pure enlightenment. And it says, Om Bhur Bhuvasvaha. You know, in the all realms, the earth, the skies and the heavens, meaning all. When you say three, it means all, from the Rig Veda. Tat Savitur Varenyam. That absolute, generative, venerable. Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi. The light of all the illuminated ones, like we see in the halos depicted, like we see in the light of the eyes. We meditate on that. Dhiyo yana prachodayat. For the full enlightenment, that which illuminates our minds. What I like about that is it's not just me. It's like we are meditating on the divine light, the light of wisdom over the light of ignorance, the light of love over the light of fear. Not over, but like you turn on the light, where'd the dark go? There's light. So this is such a benevolent mantra, a mantra that creates an easier possibility of waking up to divine reality, to divine light. And it's offered benevolently for thousands and thousands of years by innumerable beings. Gayatri mantra, mantra of illumination. Gayatri is also the goddess with 5 faces. Again, you can take it as the inner meaning, which is the way I like to, or think of the actual iconography, the visual, but the 5, illuminating through the 5 elements, earth, water, fire, air, and spaciousness, Akash. Such a benevolent mantra. The mantra is the Shakti. that illuminates our consciousness. Om Bhur Bhuvasvaha Tat Savitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yona Prachodayat. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. I'm doing a lot of chanting and divine names and telling of the beautiful sacred stories. And one could get the impression like, oh, I float on a cloud. But of course, we know that nobody's like that all the time. We all have these things that annoy us. Maybe it's a trigger and it's like, ah, and then we feel it rise up and we, sometimes I'm graceful and sometimes I'm not. And I think more and more I have more of a sense of humor about it than I used to, but not always. And that's where the practice comes in. In those moments, I literally use mantra. Like if I find someone super annoying on a call, like trying to disconnect your cable or something, I will literally use these tools to just start chanting a mantra because it feels better. Not because I'm a great person, because I'm bored with the way that's going, or I'm annoyed and I notice I'm annoyed. And it's just like you might use a toothbrush because your mouth needs a brush. So I use them, but yeah, I feel everything. And I don't really think that's a problem. We're human and we're divine, both at the same time. The important thing is to express, to take it to the highest point that could actually make a difference if I'm going to, complain. And one example of that is I was really stressed out because I had procrastinated. Maybe you can relate. And I had to leave to go on tour in Japan. And I had to leave like really quickly and I was barely packed. And I was so mad at myself and frustrated and stressed. And I went to my altar and I'm like, rah, and express. And then, but the important thing I've learned is to listen. And I'm so, what? And then things like this, these songs pop out, and not just to me. In my workshops and sound schools, everybody has medicine songs come. They're there. You just learn how to turn on the faucet. So this is the one that came because I needed it. I was like, I can't do this. And it was just, lay back in the arms of love. It spoke English because I speak English. Lay back in the arms of love. And then I'm like crying. Rest back in the arms, darling. You are safe from harm. Rest back in the arms of love. And I'm like, I don't have time to rest back. Lay back. But what happened is I sing this. Nervous system calms down. Mind gets clear. All of a sudden I know exactly the 3 things I still need to pack. Sitaram, 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 Sitaram. Hanuman, Hanuman. I remember this is service. I don't have to be perfect. Hanuman had a childhood wound. Hanuman means broken jaw. Sitaram, Ram, Ram, Sitaram. Maybe I can recognize the lover and beloved right here. This is the grace of that source that loves us so much. So most of my songs came because I needed them, or a friend. This one came because a friend was just having a hard time and I was just watching him get ready and it just popped out. Because the one I love lives inside of you. He speaks English too. I lean as close to you as I can. I love you just as you are. And now it's in a bunch of languages, like at least 6. Te amo, te amo, te amo, te amo, te amo, te amo, telkutue in Spanish, or aishiteru, aishiteru, sono mama in Japanese. Kimi no naka ni ai ga ikizuku, dakara kimi no soba e. Because the one I love is breathing in you, then I'm leaning close to you. You know? Je t'aime, tel que tu es. Awo dahalo, Ethiopian Amharic. So this is universal. And I will tell you one thing. As much as I've struggled and as much as I fall down, I have known since I was little that I'm here to experience and share how loved we are by the source of love. That's exactly why I'm here. And it's a good job. Yeah. Bum bum, bum bum, bum bum, shiva, bum bum, bum bum, bum bum.